They told me for years there was no money in podcasting. Well, they were all wrong. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Talkin' with Tarashuk. I am your host, Will Tarashuk, the founder of Ambiguous Podcast Solutions. You're probably used to hearing my voice on the Ambiguous Podcast Solution, where I talk to podcasters. Well, this is my other venture, where I talk to anyone who doesn't have a podcast, who I find interesting. And today, I am joined by Andrew Davis from the Pop Anime Comics, I guess, brand. It's a website and podcast dedicated to bringing you articles and interviews about pop culture, focusing on anime, comics, and professional wrestling. Now, normally we would talk about the podcast, but when he reached out to me, he wanted to talk about alternative investing. So that perked my ears. I am very excited. Andrew, welcome to the show. I am very happy to have you.
Yeah, no, I am super excited to be here. And anytime I get to talk about money, it's always fun.
Yeah, I mean, full disclosure, like my day-to-day job, I work at NASDAQ, 9 to 5. I make creative content all day long, just live content for their YouTube channel going live. And I just hear this all day. So this is just, I guess, right up my wheelhouse, but I still have so many questions because, I don't come from a financial background. Really, I work in finance. I started my first job was a finance tech startup being production. So I've always had this lane of finance, but I still don't know so much about it. So introduce yourself to everybody and how you got into finance and you in the financial world. What you got?
So it's so weird because I used to work in government and I used to work in the House of Representatives in the Appropriations Committee.
Okay.
So I was dealing with government money, making policy recommendations for billions of dollars on policy, different things, and appropriating money. And so that's where I used to work. And then prior to all that, I've always just been interested in regular investing. And before anybody, and obviously we're going to talk about alternative investing, I can get to it, but I am also a traditional investor, which is stocks, bonds, and things like that. And what wound up happening is I was a comic book collector, and I started really in college, and then all of a sudden you're buying books, and you need beer money, and you need to buy the next month, and you picked up a book for $20, and then fast forward 3 years later, the book's worth $120, and you're like, what is this? And then you sell it. eBay takes their cut. You have $100 left. And you're like, I have more than just beer money now. And then you start saying, okay, I need more money 2 months later. And then you do it again. And then 3-4 times you say, there's a pattern here that there's 4 or 5 books in my collection that are worth money. And then you start diving through your collection and you're saying, oh man, I'm sitting on a gold mine. And then you start spotting trends and you start saying, oh, I know what books I'm going to pick up here. I know what I'm going to pick up there. And then you slowly get it in turning into a business. And so accidentally, I just needed some cash and I just happened to have assets. And then you spot a trend. And that was never my intention being into comic books and anything with collecting. I would occasionally flip a Pokemon card, but then fast forward 4 or 5 times, you're like, man, there's something here. And then you start doing deep dives and then you start getting deeper and deeper into it. And that's kind of how I fell into it. But I have no financial background. Even before that, I really was a little bit in the stock market and I got a lot more into it just recently in the last 5 years out of college when I started having money. And it's just weird because now I'm heavily invested in comics. I'm heavily invested in Pop Funkos. I got some Pokemon cards. I got some baseball cards. And I got a little bit of crypto. And I'm also very much traditional. And it's so interesting because I view it almost like a store of value and an increase in value.
So I guess just more specifically, how do you define, what is the actual definition of alternative investing?
So I'll define traditional investing first to answer, because traditional investing is anything in a bank. So you have a CD, you have a savings account, a checking account, you're in bonds, those are more traditional investing. Also real estate to some degree, because I find what really is, I guess, traditional investing is there's regulations. So if in the banking industry, I think you put 250,000 in one bank and it's federally insured. In CDs, that money is federally insured. In the stock market, anything could happen. A company can go to zero, but there's regulations in there, and there's also recourse by the United States government and other entities to ensure protections. And even in real estate, you might not be able to invest in certain real estate deals if you are not what is known as an institutional investor.
Right.
Or if you aren't an institutional investor, you might get less of a rate, or there might be a higher requirement or a lower requirement. I'm not exactly sure, so don't quote me on that. And so I view all of that as traditional. I view where alternative investing is something that's not in that position. There's no regulations in it. There's no insurances in it. So things like artwork, it tends to be alternative investing in comic books, investing in Pop Funkos, possibly investing in cryptocurrency. So if you're right now investing in crypto video games and you're buying a Gala node, for lack of a better word, and I don't mean to single them out, and this isn't an attack, that's a big alternative investment. Versus, basketball cards, things like that. If you're investing in cars, because there is no insurance on that, and that could go straight to zero or could go all the way up to the moon, for lack of a better position. So that's how I view alternative investing. And you're also looking for a greater return in a more high risk position where it's more of the Wild West. And so that's my definition. And I know it's not such a clean definition, but that's where the difference is that one of them has 90% regulation, the other has 0 to 5% regulation.
Yeah. So it's kind of like investing on the underground. In a way,
except,
or it's more of like you're trading physical things, or even in some case digital things with NFTs and cryptos, as opposed to investing in a company for like the promise of money later. Because when you buy a stock, you're not really buying money; you're buying the promise of money.
Yeah, it's that. And so what you're really doing in an alternative investment is that you're placing and hoping that the item you bought grows, and that it goes up, or sometimes this stuff does produce dividends. You could stake your cryptocurrency, for instance, and that produces more of what you have.
Right.
But it's the idea that there's no insurance on that, and that you're viewing it more when in particular, it's easier with items. I'll show this. This is a Pop Funko.
Oh, Spider-Man.
It's Carnage. It's for Venom 2.
Okay.
For Venom 2.
All right, that's coming out this weekend, I believe.
Yeah, no, it's going to be super exciting. I'm going actually this weekend to see it, and I'm hoping it's good. But I expect this. When I bought it, it's $15. I put $15 down, and I expected it to go up in value. And so I'm viewing the growth on this is in the item itself and the rarity of this item, versus when I buy a stock like AT&T, I'm buying AT&T knowing AT&T is a company and they own a bunch of assets, and that they're going to be producing a revenue, and that should be reflected in the stock. Or conversely, if they miss their revenue, that's going to be reflected, and they also have dividends. And that's kind of how I view it. And then also what I do in my alternative investing is that I actually have an exit strategy. So when I sell that item and I'm looking at selling it for $60, I pay myself back first, and then I take half of it and I put it into more of a traditional vehicle like a dividend stock.
Right.
And then I take the other half and put it into new items. And so it's growing slowly, because at some point, and that's the other thing that people don't understand about alternative investing, is that it will fall down. It goes through wanes. It has good years. It has bad years.
Very volatile. Very volatile.
I understand to take money off the table and put it, and I'm in traditional investing. I'm in alternative investing, and I view alternative investing very much as an engine to produce wealth for me.
Okay, so is alternative investing, I guess specifically with comic books, is this a relatively new thing, or has this been around? Because I always, I for one, like when I was a kid, I kept all my Pokemon cards. I still have them at home just in case. I still have all my Yu-Gi-Oh cards. My dad has a bunch of baseball cards. So I guess that's a form of alternative investing. When it comes to comic books, specifically even Funko Pops, that's relatively new. So I guess, are you kind of taking a relatively new subject but turning it into something that's been around forever in terms of alternative investing?
So I think the investing side and the financialization of it is new in the last 20 years, where comic book collecting has always been around, but it's now really gotten a hell of a lot bigger. And part of the reason why is that there's a company called CGC, and CGC, and I actually have a CGC to show, because what they do is that they assign an objective grade to a book. And so what they do is that this is a 9.8, and so there's a 9.9 and a 10. This is the third highest grade. It's one of the best grades, because to get a 9.9 or a 10 is nearly impossible. This one happens to also be autographed. And this company is about, I think, 21 years old. And so they've created an entire business where they provide an objective grade, so that when I sell this, so if I was to sell this to you, there's no question that this is a 9.8. And so what I think has happened is that in the last 20 years or so, this company has grown, and they were just acquired by Blackstone for over $250 million to buy a 51% majority stake in them. And what's happened is that once you start going into this and grading and providing subjective objective terms to things, that's when things get financialized, and all these people have all these books, and then people say, oh, I want, this book and I want it graded, and then there's a value to it. So there's always been auctions for comics, but once CGC came on and then CBCS came later, and then a few other grading companies, it now became a much bigger business. And then also, I think people have been very disillusioned with the entire financial market and the stock market, and they're not thrilled, and they feel like they can't get ahead, but they feel that, if I buy this book, and this isn't a valuable book, but this is a raw comic book, if they buy this for $4, maybe in 10 years, it'll be worth 40, and they buy a bunch of this, they could do better than they would do in the stock market. And I think that's also that as well, where people are viewing this as the new American dream.
Right.
And I think the little guy says, look, I can't beat, the Wall Street bets traders, or I can't beat, a hedge fund, and I can't get ahead, but I could go buy a $4 item and maybe it'll 10x itself. And if I keep buying $4 items, and I think that's what's happening. And I think it's been very much sort of that trend, what has increased this dramatically.
So who determines the value? Like, say you bought a comic book back in 1994. And if for $4, and now it's worth like $500. How does that happen? Who determines it? Obviously the condition, the rarity, but is it just worth $500 because it's worth $500, or is it worth $500 because someone's willing to pay $500 for it?
It can be both.
Okay.
Where
it's not
obviously
a bad answer, actually.
everything is worth what somebody's willing to pay for it.
Right.
I think that's the easy, obvious answer. So when I sell on eBay, if an item is worth $500, but I bought the item for $50, I'm going to sell for $450 because I want to get out of it. And if I give up $30 or $50 on it, but I'm making a 400% rate of return,
right,
I'm not complaining.
Right.
I'm not going to give it away for $250. So it's that's sort of what it's worth. And then also people say, okay, what is the potential of it? But then there's certain things, like if you have, a book that only has 250 copies, that obviously is going to have a value built into it. Also, this book is a $4 book. If this book was $40, that also determines some of the value, because it's also what was put in and what can you get it for. So that's the other thing too that also determines value. I bought books that were $50 books that are now worth $300. If that book was a $4 book, it wouldn't be worth $300 and climbed up so fast in about 3 years, just because it's not as valuable, it's not as rare. So print run matters versus, if this book has been probably printed 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 times.
Right.
I just happen to like the cover. It's going to be put up on Instagram. It's a fun cover. I like the story. It's a cool story, and I'm reading that book more for story versus, growth. It might be in 10 years worth $6, but the idea, I think what really determines value is what people are going to pay for it, and also how rare something is. And then at a certain point, books just become that. And then everybody in the community sort of just consensually agrees, okay, this book is worth a minimum of X. And if you get it cheaper than that, you got a great deal. But this is sort of the average, because when you're listing a book on eBay or you're at a show, everybody prices similar to each other. And I think that's kind of where it goes. And then look, sometimes books fall. And look, I mean, Venom 2 is coming out. This Pop Funko is worth more right now because the movie's coming out. You know, I have two of these. I sold one of them last May when the trailer dropped, and I got 60 for it. And then this Pop Funko fell down to 35, and now it's back up at 60 because the movie adds a spike to it. So that's the other thing that also affects value is timing and relevance of characters or comic books or what's going on with it as well.
Well, it's the same thing as like reading the market, right? Like you have to understand the market. And like this, listening to you, I'm drawing parallels to the actual traditional investing where they are very, very similar. I like that you said, I like you bought two of them because I was just thinking while you were talking, it's like, okay, like has there ever been something where it's like you've had one of something that's one of your favorite things, you see it jump up so far, you get like $1,000 extra for it than you bought it for, but you just can't let it go because it's literally your favorite thing. Like, is it hard to kind of get rid of some of your babies, or is this strictly just business to you?
So there's three piles I have in comics.
Love it. Lay them on me. Let's go. So
there's personal books. Mm-hmm. So personal books just are not for sale unless you make me a great offer.
Right.
So I have one of my favorite comics, and it's one of my favorite experiences. I have two stories. I have a Saga 1, and I have a 9.8 Saga 1 signed by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. I love Saga, and it's one of my favorite books. That book is a $350 book. I'm not selling it because it's a personal book to me. And then I have another book that I'm a huge Batman Beyond fan. I grew up, I'm 28, and I watched Batman Beyond. I love the style. Mm-hmm. And I'm at this con, and the guy who is writing Batman is Dan Jurgens, and it's a blank cover. He's signing. CGC is supposed to witness him signing it, and then CGC fucks up. I don't know if I can curse. I'm sorry.
Go for it. All good.
I'm sorry. I should have asked before I did that.
All good, man.
They mess up, and then they come 10 minutes before he's closing shop to sign at a con. He signs, and then he starts drawing on the book because he was speaking the night before at the Library of Congress, and it was in D.C., and I said, hey, maybe you could draw a little stinger on it. For those who don't know, a stinger is a little tiny tattoo. That's like a 30-minute banger. And I would just want a little bat when he starts drawing like a head of Batman, and his handler doesn't stop him. And then his handler says, oh, are you going to get Will Friedle? So for those who don't know, and I don't know if you remember Boy Meets World, mm-hmm. Will Friedle is Eric Matthews. Mm-hmm. He plays Terry McGinnis in the animation thing. And so now his handler's like, wait right here. His handler of Dan Jurgens brings me backstage with CGC witnessing, and my dad's there too. And then he speaks to the other handler. They stop Will Friedel's line. Will Friedle comes back outside, meet him, or speak for like 3 minutes, Will Friedle, and he signs it for free and then writes, I am Batman. It got sent off to CGC, came back as a 9.8, and that's a personal book too. And so those are personal books, mm-hmm. and you can't sell that because it's like the story.
It's priceless. You have personal sentiment towards something like that. Like, there's certain things I would never sell to, because like my dad's a huge baseball collector. He has a whole cabinet like in our living room, I guess our man cave back home, of just all Yankee stuff, all baseball stuff. And there's some stuff in there I know for a fact he's never gonna get rid of. As he gets older, he's probably gonna part with some things, I'm sure. But so I totally understand the personal sentiment. There's definitely some things.
But then something like this, I like this Pop Funko. I've had it for about 4 years.
Yeah.
And, it's a little painful, but it's up on Instagram. I could always look at the picture of it. And this is where it gets fun, is that obviously I'm letting it go because, well, I want the money. And I want to, put money and move money around. And it's time to just have some cash for a rainy day also. And then there might be a good chance that if this thing falls in 6 months, I might buy it back for $30 and wait for the next time for it to rise up again. And so that's the thing, is that understanding that an asset like this will rise and fall. So mm-hmm. I might sell it now high and then buy it back when it's beat up, and then let it rise back up and hold on to it for another 4 years. But I also have it up on my Instagram. I could always look at the Instagram picture. And so it's not that painful. But this book, on the other hand, I should have showed it this way. I don't know how people can see it, but this book, is a really cool book. And at some point I will sell this book. I think because obviously it's a Derek Chew, and I love Derek Chew's work. and this book will be painful to sell, but I'm going to sell it for the right price. Everything can be painful to sell. So if I was to sell that book for $20, that'd be really painful. If I was to sell that book for $200 when I paid $40 for it, it's a no-brainer because that's an amazing rate of return. So
Gotcha.
things become less painful when they sell for more money. It's the idea that if somebody offered your dad $10,000 for his favorite card,
gone. It's gone. It's gone.
It's also the fact that I don't know how old you are. I don't know if you have kids, but if all of a sudden, if you had kids and he said, hey, I'm going to pay for your kid's college with this baseball card. And now he says, this is my gift to you. And that this is going into your, son, you just have a son or a daughter. This is my gift. I just sold this card. And this is starting off their college fund, and that money has 18 years to grow. It's that's also another thing that happens sometimes too, where certain things make sense at a certain time. But like my dad has a Jackie Robinson autograph. That thing is never going to be sold.
Yeah, never. No, my friend's got Joe DiMaggio, and God damn, what I would do to get my hands on that. So how does one actually get into the process of selling things? Like, do you just throw it on social, like Facebook Marketplace, Instagram, or like, are there institutional places for alternative investing?
So there's a few things actually. So anybody can get into alternative investing. So you can go buy something. So you have an item like a Pop Funko or a comic or Pokemon cards, and you can go that route. And then you have the item. But we're going to table that for 1 second. So obviously, I view crypto as alternative investing. So there's all these apps that you can then go and buy crypto. So I view that. I don't want to call it institutional. But as far as I think the argument goes, it is very much run really well. Coinbase is one of them. Kraken is another. KuCoin, I think, is another one. And then there's a bunch of others. And then there's things like, Gala Games and stuff like that. And so obviously those are, I don't know if we call those institutional, but they are definitely platforms where you can go and get into crypto. You could do other things like Otis. So what Otis does is Otis basically, it's very much like a stock where they will buy a very expensive comic book or art or sneakers for like $1 million, for instance, and then they break it up into shares. And they break it up so now you own a piece of that book, which is awesome. So they just bought a Hulk 181 for about $40,000. Wow. And then you could buy like $100 share. So you're getting a piece of that book, but you don't have to own the book. You don't have to store the book. And it's treated like a stock. And it's a very cool concept. If you don't have $40,000 lying around, or you don't want to find a 9.8 Hulk 181, which is the first appearance of Wolverine, which makes sense. So that's very much institutional. But then where you get into all this stuff is that this Pop Funko is from Hot Topic. So this was bought at Hot Topic. As far as I'm concerned, anybody can buy from Hot Topic unless you've been banned from Hot Topic. Yes, there are people who have been banned from Hot Topic.
It happens.
Before anybody asks.
It happens. It happens.
It's not even a joke. There are people who have been banned from Hot Topic. You could buy, you could get comic shops. You could buy comics. Obviously, you could buy this comic raw from a comic shop. And then CGC is just a company where you send the book to and they grade it. And then also got signed either privately or at a con. I'm not exactly sure where this got signed because I bought this book off of eBay. And so you can sell on eBay. There's a variety of other comic places where you can sell. And that's kind of, how it goes. And I view eBay as an institutional place where you can sell things. Amazon, you can sell Facebook Market. Wish you can sell on. Mercari is getting big. And there's, I think, like 10 other places. I primarily sell on eBay. Or what's starting to happen now is what is known as private sales. So somebody says, I buy comics. Let's either meet up at Starbucks and we'll do the deal there in cash, or conversely, that sort of happens where you negotiate on Facebook and then it becomes what is known as a private sale. Because, when you're dealing with a $1,500 book and eBay's taking out 13%, it adds up real quick.
Definitely. So how much money can someone make? Like, can this be a full-time job? Just like you have day traders, right? All they do is just buy and sell stuff all day long. Can alternative investing kind of be a full-time gig where you live pretty comfortably? Let's say like a regular, even like a 2-bedroom apartment, in anywhere in the country, or like a whole house. Can you live full-time just on an alternative investing?
I think you can. I think it can be done. So I know people who deal with $50,000 book sales.
Wow.
And so obviously if you're dealing with a $50,000 book sale, you might have been into the book at 30 grand. And so you're making a $20,000 profit.
Yeah.
There are people that all they do is that they deal with auctions of books that are worth 10,000 or more. And so they are sellers of really high end books. They deal and they sell to Heritage or they sell to Otis. And there are people who do this, and they obviously might not do this full time. They might have things like they might advise for companies, they might advise for Heritage on the side, but a bulk of their money comes from this. And so I think people can do it. I don't think it's the easiest task. I think you need to know what you're doing. But I think people, and there are people who are doing this, who are buying and selling a lot of books and buying a lot of books and moving a lot of merch, because there's a lot of rich people in the United States. And you know what it is? We have the most millionaires, I think, in the world in the U.S., and we have the most billionaires in the world in the U.S. And well, a lot of these people want fun toys. And I think it can be done. And even if it can't be done, if you are dealing with $50,000 books and you sell a few of those a year and you're making 80 grand on those sales, and you have a regular job that's producing you 100,000, and then you take that 80 grand and you invest it properly. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about 80 grand in profit. I'm not talking about 80 grand in the actual thing. You pay yourself back and you kick it forward. You say that 80 grand. And if you do that enough times for a few years and it's invested correctly and into dividend stocks, you probably don't need to ever work again if you do it the right way and live frugally.
So how does this work with the big man upstairs? Big man upstairs, of course, being the government with taxes. Because like if someone was making that much money, they have to claim it. Whereas like if I was just kind of doing it here and there throughout the year, say make $1,000 throughout the whole year, I don't have to claim that. That's just money I made on the side.
Oh, so it's getting fun. So the way it works on eBay is that you have so I'm not a tax expert. So I know on eBay, what it used to be is the 1099K requirement on eBay used to be 200 sales or 20K.
Yep, and they'd send you a W-2 or whatever the form is at the end of the year to file it with all your earnings, and you file it for taxes.
And then you deal with your accountant and you figure out what to cut out, and
that's just one platform though. You can do it on.
So where I'm going with this is, and this is where it gets fun, and this is what nobody knows in comic book investing now, is the American Rescue Act plan that was snuck in onto online sales, and in particular with eBay, and I would imagine it's similar with Amazon and a few others, and I think it affects Coinbase too, is that it lowers it down from 20K and 200 sales to $600, no requirement of sales. So right now, if you said $600 or more, and I think starting at the end of 2022, so you're going to be receiving a 1099K. And this is where it gets fun, is that selling $600 on eBay is not that difficult.
No, that doesn't sound like difficult
at all. It's really
all.
easy. When I'm selling an $80 book and every sale that I do is $50 to $80 and I'm selling 10 items, by month 2, I have sold $600 plus of merchandise. That doesn't mean I made $600 in profit. Mm-hmm. A 1099K is not a profit statement. It is saying you sold X, and look, technically you probably can report a negative 1099K and pay less taxes, theoretically, from my understanding, because if you sold things but you lost money on all of it and you deduct it, so if I bought an item for $10 and I sold it for $5, I didn't make any money. And technically, if you're running a business, you could run at a negative margin.
Yes.
And technically, I mean, I'm not a tax expert, but what happens is that if you sold $800, you might not be in a different tax bracket. It just creates a headache for your accountant. is what it's doing.
Right.
And so now what's going on, and one of the biggest debates is that people are saying, look, that 1099K is not going to come into effect really and affect anybody for this year. So people are saying, do I sell my big books for $50K and then I don't have to pay the 1099K requirement, or I have to pay less of it? Or if I sell my $5,000 books this year and I sell 3 of them, next year, maybe they'll go up $500, but now I don't have to worry about the taxes as far as the 1099K is concerned, because I'm not in that position with eBay. And it's a very complicated debate because nobody knows.
Yeah. Classic government making things super confusing with no clarity. I'm sorry, I used to work for the government. I know, but
it's frustrating because nobody knows, and this conversation actually is not happening in the comic book community. It happened for about 2 weeks, and then every group dropped it. And what's going to happen, and then a bunch of people are going to wind up getting hit end of 2022 in December or early January. And they're like, what the fuck is this shit?
Yeah, they're like, I owe how much money? Excuse me?
I don't have this.
Right. A lot of people, I really do think a lot of people are going to be in big trouble. Now, I'm glad you're saying you're not a tax expert. Like, I'm not a tax expert either. But when it comes to running a business, obviously, there's things you can write off as long as you can prove, or your accountant can show, hey, this was a business expense. Now, if you're just buying and selling things off of eBay and you put it back into buying other things, yeah, you could write that off if you're registered as a business.
It gets more complicated.
Yeah.
So my understanding is that
because you need to be registered as like a sole proprietor LLC, right? Because they have a bank account.
No. I don't even think you need to some degree. The only thing that an LLC does, from my understanding, is it protects you from limited liability. So if I was to do, start a consulting service of an economic consulting, and I was a certified financial planner or advisor, I need to be an LLC because I can be sued. If I'm an LLC, my corporation can be sued. I can't be sued personally. It would be very hard for you to sell me if I sell you this book, because this book can't hurt you. It would be ridiculous versus me giving you bad financial advice, me giving you bad medical advice. That can hurt you.
Right.
And what an LLC does is it protects you from liability. I don't think somebody can sue me if they got a paper cut from my comic. I think
they can try. They can try. You can sue for anything.
They would lose. I think it's a safe assumption.
It would be thrown. A judge would be like, get the fuck out of here.
My point is that I'm not at any liability because I'm not giving any advice. I'm selling you a product that is not going to hurt you. If you try to sue me because you said, I'm going to read the comic when I'm driving, again, a judge is going to throw that out because it's not reasonable. And the point is that I think I can deduct certain things from a business, and I don't think I have to be an LLC. Now, there are advantages to being an LLC that you get other, I think, deductions and other things, but you can deduct things. My dad is a sole proprietor attorney, and he runs a business. He's on an LLC because it doesn't make any sense for him to be an LLC when he has one employee himself.
Yeah, it's a sole proprietorship. Correct.
And so I can deduct certain business expenses, and I do. And so like I deduct shipping, and I take eBay's fees out of it. How much the book costs, packaging materials. Now, obviously, I could probably deduct more, but I don't. And also, I'm not selling $50,000 a year either. So the government's not necessarily looking at me the same way they're looking at somebody else who's selling $400,000, or I'm not a brick and mortar. And it gets tricky also because I sell in all, 48 states, give or take.
Yeah, they're not going to audit you. For that would be silly. They're gonna go after those big fish who are kind of trying to find this as loophole. It only sounds like that law that was passed is a way to kind of close a loophole. That's
what they were trying to do, because the guy's selling an $18,000 Rolex, and they want to get him, but and it becomes complicated. Now the rule gets more complicated, and this is why nobody knows what the fuck it is. Because if I go and sell. So I like using props. They're fun. So if I go sell this book
I love it.
for $8 and then I buy another book for $8 or $6 after eBay takes their fees, and it's for my personal enjoyment, that's not included in my 1099K, and then I have to explain it to my accountant. So if it's to further your hobby, it's excluded. Now, what does that mean exactly?
How do you define a hobby?
I don't know what that means, and that's why I'm so confused.
Hobby? Exactly. Yeah. It sounds like a nightmare. It honestly sounds like a nightmare, and I don't envy you, but that's why it's alternative investing. It's not regulated, so that there's no rules. Here comes the government trying to make rules. So I don't envy you.
eBay made it complicated. The government made it complicated. And you know what it is? I hate to say this, but you know what it is? If a Republican gets into office in 2024, this might be dismissed. A good chunk of it might be dismissed. And then if a Democrat gets involved in 2028, it might come back, and we might have wanes in between every 4 years when IRS reform happens. It is insane. And this is why it's ludicrous. And nobody knows what it's going to be. Nobody has any idea how it's going to play out. And this is why I need to find a collectible CPA. You need to find people who know what they're doing. I mean, I have friends in the porn industry. There are porn CPAs for a reason.
Of course.
Meaning that certain things are deductible based on your profession. You
need someone who knows the tax code as well as the law.
And it's a very, very, very crazy and beyond frustrating concept. And I don't know what it means, and it's confusing. And I'm going to throw something else out there that's even going to be more confusing that a bunch of people are going to get burned on. I'm obviously involved in the Kickstarter community, and I know it's a slight deviation, but people in the Kickstarter community are going to get burned, because I think that American Rescue Act is going to be playing a big factor in that. And I think it's going to be very interesting what happens when everybody gets hit and says, oh, snap, I'm in income bracket 3 and not income bracket 2. And now my taxes for that extra $3,000 is 25% and not 20%. I don't have that money. Oh, shit. What do I do? Right. And it's coming. Yeah. And I'm prepping for it. I mean, I know it's coming, and it's going to be bad, and it's not going to end well. It's not going to end well.
Well, I'm sorry I asked. Let's shift.
No.
Let's shift from the government. It's like
it's important to ask
this.
It's
a very important thing, because it's like, okay, so like if I was gonna get into this kind of investing, it's like I need to know these risks, right? Everyone needs to know these kind of risks. It's not just if that's if you want to take it really seriously. I suppose it's things here and there. So when you make money, let's shift over. Let's focus on the cash and the money. When you make money, say you make X amount a month, how much of that money goes towards reinvesting in other products for, like, specifically alternative investing, like other comics, other anime, other Funko Pops? How much actually that goes towards, like, traditional investing, like maybe gold, crypto? I don't know if say crypto, but gold, stocks, whatever. And how much of that goes to, like, rent, food, and necessities, or beer?
So right now, I'm lucky. So I'm right now living at my home, and my parents aren't charging me for anything. So COVID has forced me into a sort of crazy corner, and then I'm in between work right now. But when I was working and doing this, we'll go off that. So my job paid for my rent, and it paid for my food, and I had a little bit of extra money, to basically pay, to have some fun, buy a new video game, and I was living perfectly comfortable, and then also take some money and sort of throw it into the investment pool for comics, and then I was buying some stock and some other stuff. And then, so that, with my alternative investing, none of my real money, I guess, for my job ever has been really put into this, except maybe about $10,000 over 10 years just to start it up. And every once in a while, you need a little bit of a cash injection of maybe $1,000 every 2 years or so, because you're having a cash flow issue. Beyond that, this has all been a lot of cash flow has sort of happened with this in the last, I would say, 6 years, when I started selling a lot. So what winds up happening, since none of this is going to food, rent, or anything like that, what winds up happening is that I pay the item back itself. So let's say that I sold an item and I bought the item for $20 and I sold it for $30 and I made $3 on it. That goes in. The $3 is put aside and gets broken down into what is now going to be taxes coming up. A portion of that, probably a third, just in case it's a disaster. And then the other $2, I get to do whatever the hell I want to do with it. And either I'll throw it into crypto. If I think crypto is good, I'll throw it into stocks, or I'll just put it into my brokerage account. Sometimes I'll just leave it sitting around for a rainy day because, well, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But I pay myself back. But rather than pay myself back, what I do is I buy a new item. So I immediately take that money and buy a new item, and then the remainder, a third of it's going to be going to taxes, and then the other $2 go into an investment that produces interest in some capacity, whether that's a crypto position or whether that's just in a stock. And what I mean by interest is dividends, and then my dividends get reinvested. And very rarely, I might just cash out of a complete book and take the whole thing off the table if I think it's a necessary move because I have something coming up that is required for it. Such as, if I'm $100 short and it's Christmas time and I just sold a book, if you take $100 off, once a year off of a book and you're selling 1,000 items a year, it's not that big of a deal because, well, you got to get somebody a Christmas gift. But when I was working, I had an emergency fund. So I was never, ever put in danger.
Very smart.
And it was only a little cash infusions. And obviously right now, I am asset rich, I am stock rich, I am investing rich, I am cash poor. And that's why I'm selling a lot more stuff and moving stuff out and slightly discounting things by maybe like $5-10 so I can get back up to a better cash position.
I believe they call that perceived value, perceived wealth. It's like you're cash poor, but you're wealthy in things you own. The perception of wealth is there because you can just go get it. You can just sell it and go get it.
I have enough money in the stock market that most 28-year-olds don't have. And they're producing me dividends, but I don't want to touch that. It's liquid.
Yep.
I have a lot of cash in the bank. It's liquid, but I don't want to touch it. And I'm in a fortunate enough position where COVID's a nightmare and I moved back home, which was the smartest move on the table because when you're not being charged rent, definitely it works.
Yeah. I think I'm the same way.
Gearing up and I'm supposed to start a job in 2 weeks. So it's nice when you're starting a job in 2-3 weeks, and that's going to solve a problem, but it's in Connecticut and it's 5 miles away from my house. So I'm going to live here as long as I can. Mommy and daddy, if they're paying the rent, guys, I'm taking it.
Honestly, like a lot of young people, I'm 26. I've been on my own since I graduated college. I mean, I'm not fully out of support my parents. My parents still support me in certain ways. Like, I just turned 26. So they paid my healthcare forever. They still pay my phone. I just paid my car insurance for the first time this year. So like, I'm starting to wean off the teats, if you will. But
I paid a lot of rent when I was in DC, and I was living there for 4.5 years.
Yeah, forget it.
I loved where I lived.
Yeah,
until
my
building.
I was on Long Island. I'm in Hoboken, New Jersey. Like New York City is right there. So I totally get the expenses. I'm almost jealous. I wish I could have that freedom, but honestly, going home would just destroy me. But I'm glad. How long have you been doing this? How long have you been doing this kind of investing with comic books?
Sophomore year of college, probably
8 years.
8 years, but I've been collecting for probably 12.
Okay, interesting, very interesting.
But I've always been a flipper of things, and like and then you have a bunch of cool stuff, and you're like making money. It's a lot of fun.
I'm gonna assume you were like a comic book, anime, wrestling fan your whole life. So what made you sophomore year of college be like, you know what? I'm going to start doing this. And was it gradual, or was it just hit the ground running? Let's go.
Oh, it was very, very gradual where it's, as I stated, I just needed beer money.
Love it.
It sounds so silly that when you're saying, oh man, I have no money for the next month comics that are coming out, which is 2 months because you could order your comics 2 months in advance at 50% discount. I'm like, oh man, I don't have any money. What can I do here? And they're like, oh, I could do this. I have this book. Oh, snap, $120. I'm good for the next 3 months with alcohol and comic books. How can I lose? Like, I didn't even think of it as an investment. I thought of it saying, this book's not doing me any favors. And then, as I stated, and then you go and then you're like, oh man, I need a little bit more money here, a little bit more money there. And then all of a sudden you have a summer job, and then you take a few, months off from that, and you're happy getting your accounts and you're thrilled and you're buying stuff. And then you're like, oh man, I need money again. And then you just sort of spot trends, and you're like, now I'm going to start buying what is good and what's going to make me money. Mm-hmm. And then you get further into it, and then now I buy certain things knowing that in 3-4 years they're going to be worth 50% more to 200% more, and I'm going to be thrilled and I'm going to make money. And then it's now become very much a, I guess, perpetual machine. And then now I'm pulling back a little bit because I think the market is overhyped. And I think that I'm just realigning what I have in my collection, because the pendulum swung a little too far with 2 or 3 companies, and now I got to balance it out a little bit. And so I'm just restructuring the portfolio. I mean, I view it very much like a private equity fund, because in a lot of ways it is. I mean, and I don't mean like this is very much a numbers game, and I'm also switching up on what I'm going and viewing as sleepers. So a sleeper is an investment that nobody looks at, and then 3 years down the road it explodes and everybody hates themselves for not picking it up.
Right. It's the same puzzle as different pieces. Like, what you're doing is no different than what any jack-off over on Wall Street does. You're just doing it with a completely different outlet, completely different market, and completely different, soon-to-be similar rules.
And also, I'm doing it where everybody can compete, because I can't compete with Wall Street. That's the big difference with alternative investing. This is a $15 item, okay? I can't go, and on Wall Street in a hedge fund, they're shorting things. I can't cover a short if it goes the other way, in which that but if I lose $15, I'm going to be pissed, but I didn't lose my house. Right. I didn't go insolvent.
Right.
and so that's the difference too, is that you could get into this game for $4. You can get in this game for $2.59 in previews every month with one book and shipping. You can't buy and short and get the same rate of return on Wall Street, because most day traders suck.
Yeah.
80% of them lose money. It is a brutal sport. It is hard if you take $80 a month and go buy comics, statistically, you're going to do fine. Statistically, you're going to break even.
How long does it take to break even? How long does it take to see a return on your investment on average? Obviously, some things are different depending on what you buy.
What strategy are you using? It depends on the strategy. So we're going to go into this, because this is I love doing this. So
go ahead. You tell me like a few different strategies you have used or strategies you should avoid. Go into strategy. Go for it.
I utilize two strategies. So I use a long-term play.
Okay.
So I like buying books and saying, okay, this book needs to mature. Mm-hmm. And so the book is a maturity book. So great. I buy the book and I'm like, cool, I'll hold on to it for 3 years. And I bought it for 20. I'm going to sell it for 70 in 3 years, or 80 in 3 years. I've also used strategies where, and it's a little unethical, where they say 1 per person. And then I use my dad's office. I'll send it to my sister. I'll send it to my friends, and I'll buy 3 of them. And then I'm flipping that book for $70, $80. And then somebody's like, could you do 75? I'm like, yes, I can. Mm-hmm. And they're happy. I'm happy. It was a Star Wars Zenoscope book of a Sonatona. They were doing a mock-up of her, and I kept one for myself too, because it's an amazing book. I sold the 2. I bought 3, and I sold 2 of them, and basically paid for the 1 and all. It's great. But so that's a quick flip, and those are really the 2 strategies I utilize effectively. And then I guess there's a third strategy where I pump money into a book. So a way to increase value in a book is getting it signed and graded like this. So getting it graded, this is a yellow label, which means it's signed. Getting it signed. So sometimes artists will charge for the signature. So that's pumping money, and that adds value to it. And then grading it is a $20 to $30 process, and whatever the signature is, and then also whatever the book is.
What does grading mean? What does that mean?
It means what they do is that CGC or CBCS, you send it to them at a con or in the mail. You pay them, obviously, and then they encapsulate and give an objective grade. So they analyze the corners, the page numbers, the colors, any spine ticks, any fractures, staples missing. And this basically protects the book. It says this is a 9.8. And that even if this book was to go down to one piece of paper inside this over the next 50 years, it is a 9.8. They also, if they witness the signatures, they authenticate the signature there. And that adds value. So this signature is authenticated by CGC saying he signed, Derek Chu signed this book.
Okay.
So now we know when I list this thing on eBay that Derek Chu signed this book, CGC witnessed it, and it's a 9.8, the third highest grade. And it's now not that if me and you could have a discussion if we were looking at this book together, that you could say, oh, I think it's a 9.6. I think it's a 9.4.
Right.
I think it's 9.8. We cannot have a discussion on that book.
So it's a certificate of authenticity.
But this is airtight.
Right.
So you can't open
non-negotiable. Okay.
You can't open this.
Really?
So I mean, it's hard plastic.
Okay.
You can't open this book unless you want to ruin it. I mean, obviously we could open it, but this, like, no air is in here, or very little air is in here.
Right.
So this book will have a shelf life. If it was exposed for probably 30 to 40 years, there have been books that have been submerged underwater for an hour and no water got into this.
God, nerds never cease to amaze me. I gotta tell you, man.
This company was just bought by Blackstone for $250+ million. And now it's part of Blackstone. You have a big institutionalization, bought a grading company for comic books with Jay-Z of all people and a few others. And it's a big deal because I think they're going to spin it off. And this company grades baseball cards and Pokemon cards, and this adds value. So if this book was raw and signed, it might be a $40 book. This book's at least $100 book. So when you get something graded, it adds value to it because it changes the definition. When you get something autographed and graded, it changes the valuation on it. And that's the whole point. And that's why this has become financialized. It's so interesting, not to mention that I want to protect things. Like, this is not worth getting graded. If somebody gets it graded and gets this book graded, they wanted to get it graded because they like the book. They're not looking at it as an investment as far as grading.
What's the highest grade you can get? What's the scale?
A perfect 10. It's
okay,
10
it's not 10 to 1.
To point NA.
Point NA.
But
got it.
Or not point N/A. But then with CGC, there's a blue label. There's a green label, which is an unqualified signature, meaning that the book is signed, but they can't certify it. And then there's a restored one, or unqualified means that they can't be graded, but you just wanted it encapsulated for whatever reason. And so that's how they view it. And so restored books are very different than yellow labels. They're very different than blue labels. But again, it's a huge company. It's a big company. And when you get big companies like Blackstone buying them, I mean, there you go. And for those who don't know, CBCS is owned by Beckett. Beckett is a big baseball trading card company. And they do a lot of grading. They do a lot of other stuff. They have magazines, and they own a lot of stuff too. And they offer comic book insurance as well.
That's crazy. How do you know when something's going to be valuable and something's going to be a dud? Like, how can you tell that this is worth investing in? Or how do you know it's like, I'm going to pass on that? Like, is it a gut feeling, or is this like, okay, or how do you know?
Whenever I throw something into a Facebook group and people make fun of me, I triple down.
Oh my God. Honestly, dude, not gonna lie, that's brilliant. Dude, keep that up. Keep that up. Because you know how many people have told me since I started podcasting I'm not gonna make money off of it? There's no money in podcasting. Motherfucker, Joe Rogan sold for $100 million. They can all kiss my ass. All right? So
I'll tell
that. That's
a
the
story.
best answer you could have possibly given.
I'll tell a traditional stock story because it's relevant. Everybody made fun of me for buying L brands when they were at $9. Everybody made fun of me. And then L brands, I saw it going down all the way from like 100 down to $9. I bought a bunch of shares, got made fun of in a bunch of stock groups. Then it creeped up to $12, $15, $18, $20. And I was at 34. I'm like, oh man. And then Skidmore came in, and then I was like, no, don't do it. And then the deal fell through, and I was ecstatic. And then it just kept going up. And then they had their brand split, and they had a stock split where Bath and Body Works was under L Brands and Victoria's Secret was under L Brands. And basically what wound up happening is Bath and Body Works at $84 spun off at $63, and Victoria's Secret spun off at $48. Victoria's Secret on the first day spiked up 25%, and Victoria's Secret at I think $57, and Bath and Body Works is at $63, I want to say. So I took a $9 stock to $110 value per share.
Good Lord.
And I got made fun of for it and I was 100% correct, and took 18 months, but I was right. And so when people, but joking aside on that point, I'm very much a contrary investor. When people start saying, oh, that's a bad idea, this pop was a great example of that. But like, this is not going to be anything. And I'm like, well, we'll see. And I sort of knew Spider-Man's big. At some point, Carnage is going to get big, whether that's MCU or Sony. And I made that. And then also I look at certain things like Star Wars is always hot. Mm-hmm. So anything that does a cover that's not Marvel or DC, like Zenoscope or Aspen or some other people, if they do a Star Wars-esque cover and people sort of want it, I always know to pick it up. And I always know to go after it. I know to pick up certain books, also books that look good and certain artists I get a feeling on are the next big thing. I'm also fortunate enough, and I know you don't want to talk about it, but when you're interviewing a lot of comic people like I do, I get insight into who's the next superstar before other people, and it's a perk and it's a privilege. Because when you're in comic groups and people introduce you and say, hey, check out this new person, the first time they're doing a cover. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to go check out what they've done. And then you pick up stuff that they've done early on. And so I'm fortunate enough to be in very much a perk position where one of my other hobbies / businesses that I run gives me insight into it. And then I just know that certain things are big. You know, it's the saying that Pokemon's not going anywhere. One Piece as an anime is not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. You know, things like Star Wars are only going to get bigger. You know, Indiana Jones is only going to get bigger. Tom Brady's going to win 10 more Super Bowls. We know it.
God willing.
Yeah, it's once he wins them, I mean, we're screwed on Earth. I'm telling you, that's the end of Earth as a show. I'm just saying that's like the finale is Tom Brady winning his 17th Super Bowl. It's coming, guys. I mean, he can play. He can play. They're gonna have to kill him before he leaves the field. But that's kind of how I just know where it's just I have a lot of insight, and then also I just buy cool shit.
Yeah, that's crazy. All right. You know what? We've gone for an hour, and I haven't even talked about your pop anime comics, your website. So, man, tell me about your website, like what you do there, and then we're gonna have some fun and just talk some wrestling, anime, and comics with some speed rounds. So, tell me about your website. Because I honestly didn't think we were gonna talk that long about investing, but goddamn, man, we went down a rabbit hole. So let's come out the other end and let's talk about like what it is you do for like I guess your business and your website. Let's go.
So my website is sort of fun, and I just write about anime, comics, wrestling, and I don't really do much on that. I just like writing about this stuff, and I sort of fell into that too because I got demonetized on YouTube. And I said, "Oh, screw it! I'll just write on this stuff."
How?
And I was a bad writer.
What happens?
I just broke a bunch of their rules, and I can't make money on YouTube, and I'm okay with that.
It's really annoying, man. I'm mad for you.
It's been the greatest thing in a very painful way because it forced me to open up my website, which then forced my podcast, and it forced me to actually become a better writer. And so I've written over 300 articles on anime, on comic books, on wrestling. I like writing how things should be booked and why they are not booked that way. I don't know. I like writing about animes and military and reviewing anime. I have something on my website called The Good, the Bad, the Verdict on a particular show. Where I talk about what's good, what's bad, and whether you should watch it or not. I haven't been writing on my website for a while now, and I actually just wrote an article I finished it today about military animals that have served. And I'm going to be putting that up tomorrow. It's a very cool thing because I have a relationship with the Navy Press Institute now, and they publish a lot of graphic novels dealing with military. And so I'm super excited to release that one. And I'm actually getting back into writing now again for the first time in a while. And so, I just like doing it. And I do a bunch of other stuff too. Obviously, I podcast and I do a little speaking. And there's not much there. And then obviously, I've done a bunch of anime panels and stuff at cons talking about like Godfather of Anime, Osamu Tezuka, sports animes, Gundam, Attack on Titan, Fahrenheit 451, and The Walking Dead. I compared that and I invented that concept. And I've been cited in a bunch of college papers on it.
Yeah,
I'm 22. I'm getting cited by people who are trying to get their PhDs who are like 30. And I'm like, how is this even possible anymore? And like, can we have your panels? I'm like, no, you cannot. You can cite me. My name is Andrew Davis. That's fine. You cannot have my panels. No, it's just no. And I was like, but I said, if you want to talk to me, that's cool. And a person spoke to me for like 30 minutes. I don't know if I was cited, but they used some of my ideas apparently. So I'm cool with that. But yeah, no, I love it. And I actually got to speak at the Javits Center. So that's a cool thing that's happened. I don't know how many people get to say that. I didn't get paid for it, but I got to speak there.
Yeah, I checked out your podcast on SoundCloud. I listened to a few of them. I like them, dude. You're really good at it. Not gonna lie.
That's my old show.
Okay.
I have a new show.
So what's your new show? Because this. So okay. I know this is we're gonna divvy off from the podcast because it's not this podcast to talk about the podcast. But what's the new show? Where can I find it? Is it available everywhere?
So the new show is only on YouTube and Facebook and sometimes on Twitch. It's a Facebook Live and it's similar to the old show. So the old show is called Pop Anime Comics Lounge, and I interview comic writers, voice actors, wrestlers, and cosplayers. And COVID hit, and I just turned that into a Facebook Live called Conversations in Pop Culture that focuses more on indie comics and indie wrestling and a little bit of cosplay. And that's just Facebook Live. And I did 90 last year, and I'm hitting 185 this year. And the old show, Pop Anime Comics Lounge, is just on a hiatus for a little bit because the marketplace has changed. But I don't want to get too much into it. But you could pretty much find that on YouTube or Facebook or Twitch. And eventually it will get onto an RSS feed or a podcast. I just haven't done it yet because money's a little bit tight right now. And I have something coming out on November 1st that might solve my problem. But that's a different discussion. That's a different discussion. And I could tell everybody what it is because this will be out by then. If everybody wants to know, I'm launching a Kickstarter to fund my season 3 for Conversations in Pop Culture.
All right, man. We'll talk after because I do want to talk about your podcast. But we'll talk offline because as you know,
I don't want to ruin it.
Ambiguous Podcast Solutions is a company and network where we partner with podcasters. So that's going to be very exciting. But let's talk some comics. So I myself and an anime noob. Like I am what I call a fan of American anime. Meaning, like, I grew up on Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And nowadays I watch Naruto. I watch a lot of Naruto. I'm almost done with, like, the whole series. And I gotta get into Shippuden. But, what is your favorite anime of all time?
Oh, man. I am very much a Gundam nut. So anything Gundam, I'm for. Probably, if I had to watch one Gundam, I'd probably say Gundam Zeta.
No idea.
Gundam just as a franchise has been around for over 40 years. Okay. And it's mecha robots in space fighting over stuff. It's a war anime and it's just a big franchise. It's like a stable in anime. But yeah, I like Naruto too, and Boruto. I just can't watch Boruto.
No, that sounds like a stretch. I mean, like I remember, like in high school, like Naruto was like pretty big, and I was like, Naruto, fucking nerds.
And One Piece is great. One Piece is always good.
I'm gonna get around to One Piece, but like when it came to Naruto, I was like, I started watching. It's like, okay, like what is this? How good can it really be? I'm like, I was missing out all these years. It's incredible. It's so good.
It's funny because I got to do the voice actor Shikamaru. Did the voice
Really?
actor of, and the voice actor of Choji has been on.
Shikamaru is one of my favorite characters. That guy's like, what a drag.
This is such a drag that
Such
we
a
have to go
drag.
stop the enemy.
Man, I don't even want to take part in these stupid tuning exams. Man, this is such a drag.
God damn it! Why did I have to wake up? I like how he's tasked. They're in the middle of the tuning exams. He's tasked, and Kakashi's like, "I need you to do this now." And like Shikamaru's like, "What a drag!" And like, oh, it's great. It's great. He's like the greatest character ever. Because it's not that he's lazy. He just uses his smarts instead.
Yeah, he's just like, I'm too smart for this. He's like, I'm playing chess, 40 chess. You're all playing checkers. Like, get out of here.
I like the fact that in the middle of the tuning exam, he's like, I give up. Like,
He's like, I quit. I'm done. And he's the only one who passed. He's the only one who passed.
It was great. And he's like, he had to fight 3 people, and then one of them gets killed. It's that entire arc from the tuning exam to when they go after Sasuke is the greatest arc in Naruto ever, because it's so perfect what they've done. And Jiraiya's in the middle of it. Oh, it's brilliant.
I'm like 3 seasons. After Naruto and Sasuke fight, it's just Sasuke gets and runs away. It's all fluff until you hit Shippuden. So I'm just like trying to get through the fluff, and it's just so hard.
But there's some fun episodes. There's some
really good ones. Like I just finished the series where they go to like the water islands, and like that other lady was formerly with Orochimaru, and she got a little more of her backstory. I was like, that's interesting. Give me canon, all right? Don't give me this fluff of like Guy Lee and Rock Lee got cloned by these 2 dumbasses, and they go into the Leaf Village. You know what I mean?
I love that episode. I love that episode because it's so ridiculous, and they're like,
so ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And anyone who's not an anime fan, I'm sorry. You can just fast forward 5 minutes or whatever. So, so if someone's just getting into anime, just started, like, okay, Andrew, I hear all about this anime. Where do I start? What is like the baseline? If you want to get into anime, you need to watch these 3 shows or movies.
Right now, I think the show to watch is Cowboy Bebop.
Okay.
And the reason why is it's the Netflix stuff is coming out.
Yep.
And I think it makes a lot of sense for people to say, is if you're going to watch an anime that everybody's going to want to talk about, and anime fans and non-anime fans are going to talk about, it's Cowboy Bebop. Because that's coming out, I think, in November, and so that's the anime to watch right now. I wouldn't call it the baseline, but if you want to be part of a crowd of both anime fans and people who are not anime fans, that's your anime to watch. But if you're looking for something that's a little bit more intellectual, a show like 91 Days is very interesting, where legitimately the show takes place in 91 days, and it's 14 or 15 episodes, and it's about a guy whose family was wiped out by a gang feud and a gang disagreement, disappears for 7 years, comes back, and is exacting revenge on the family over 91 days. And every episode, there is no wasted motion. And it is a brilliant, brilliant show. And then there's another show called Odd Taxi that just came out that's probably similar to that. It is brilliant, and you are not going to know what happens, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but when you watch it and you get to episode 12, you are going to be completely dumbfounded, and you're going to realize this is one of the most brilliant stories that has ever been told. Not ever been told, but one of the most brilliant stories in the last 20 to 25 years. It's that good, and it is perfect storytelling, and it will change the way you think about stories, because you think you are watching one show, and in episode 12 you realize you're watching a whole different show. And both of those things can be watched for free right now on Crunchyroll. For those who want to watch it for free. I don't have any affiliate links you're going to watch with ads, but they can be watched for free, so it's very cool.
I'll also throw in the movie Akira. I remember the first time I saw Akira, and, like, my friends are big anime nerds. Like, well, you have to watch this movie. So he sat down and watched it. It's a 1988 film. It's a little old, but it still holds up. It's absolutely insane. All I'm going to say about it, the phrase, well, that escalated quickly, is just that for the whole movie. It just escalates so quickly.
If you're going to watch it, you should read the manga as well.
Yeah, that as well.
The manga,
read the book as well. Yeah, the manga, excuse me.
The book is unbelievable, and it's better than anything you could possibly. The movie was great. The book puts the movie to shame. It's all six of them, and then also Joshua Seth was on it, and he plays one of the characters. I think he plays Tetsuro.
Yeah.
In that, so
And like,
it's amazing. I know all this stuff, and it's phenomenal. Akira is a great movie, though. If you haven't seen it, buy it.
so what got you into anime?
Oh man, it was just on every night on Toonami.
Okay.
And the shows look cool. Like you're watching DBZ, and then the next show looks cool too, and then you're watching this show, and then all of a sudden you're watching everything. And then Saturday morning Toonami was on. You're like, oh man, it's 9 o'clock, and this is on. Cool. I shouldn't be watching this, and that's how it turned out. Because you're from my generation, the stuff that was on in our generation, and I feel bad for kids growing up now. Everything that was not supposed to be on was on at like 5 or 6 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And like Outlaw Star had pretty much nudity covered by like bricks that were sort of see-through, and it was on regular television. It's great, and I turned out fine.
Like anime itself is just one of the weirdest forms of like art in TV. So what is it specifically that you love about it that you can't get enough of? Because like for me, it's definitely the fighting scenes. It's whenever two guys fight, it's just like this is the craziest thing ever. And sometimes the stories, but I'm not gonna lie, I could go without the gasps. It's the those little noises drive me crazy. Or like the long fades over someone's eyes, and it's like the themes of friendship endures all. Like, so that shit just annoys the hell out of me. So what is it for you? It's like, oh my God, I can't get enough. Like, what about the technical aspect of anime?
You know what it is? I just like the stories, and I like the fact that it's sort of action paced. And I don't know like any other American cartoons that do anything even close to anime at this point.
They don't. That's the thing. They don't.
It's also the fact that like you look at American cartoons, there's very few that are adult oriented, and if they had something like all the cartoons are done for like maybe you're 9 years old. I mean, like when I'm watching a show, like I just finished, I was watching Fullmetal Alchemist Conqueror Shambhala earlier today. Like I'm 28. I feel that I can watch that and it's serious enough that I don't feel like it's beneath me. I don't feel like it's a 5-year-old. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't feel disrespected.
It's that, and also I feel like I belong. I feel like if I'm 40, I can watch it. And with a lot of anime, I feel that way. Even with like a shonen anime, I feel like I'm appropriate aged for it. And that's the thing about anime is that I feel like there's a much wider range, versus watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on Nickelodeon. I feel that it's not an appropriate age for me. Or even watching Pokemon right now, like, come on. Yeah. It's definitely geared towards an 8, 9, maybe a 10-year-old. It's not geared to a 28-year-old, while anime is closer to my age. Maybe a certain anime is geared to being 16, but it's at least closer to me being 28, versus me being 8 years old. I mean,
a lot of animes are definitely ageless. It's just like, no, you need to hit a hunch in the head. Like, I'm 26, I can watch this and not feel like I should be 12.
Yeah, like you don't feel when you're watching Naruto that you don't belong.
Yeah.
Like some episodes you do, like when Naruto passes gas and Kiba, and that's what kills him in the Chunin exam. That's just a gag joke, but that's still funny to me because fart jokes and dick jokes are hilarious.
They're all reliable.
But I understand that is aimed at a 9-year-old. That's not aimed at a 28-year-old. But then when Naruto's fighting Sasuke, it's the idea that that's a very serious situation.
Yeah, shit got real. I'll be 58 going, holy fuck, this is incredible.
And look, I mean, I don't know if you've ever had a serious disagreement. I'm having an issue with a friend of mine right now, and I don't know if we're still friends, and I get it, and I can draw parallels to that scene.
Yeah.
Meaning that if me and him were real ninjas and we had chakra and we had jutsus, this is how that fight would go.
Yeah.
I don't know who would win.
Yeah,
I don't know who
exactly.
would be who, but there would be serious consequences. That's what it feels like to me at the very least. I know it sounds a little bit corny, but I can relate to that fight.
Mm-hmm.
Because at a certain point, sometimes you got to throw fists at people to some degree. You feel like you need to.
Yep. Sometimes the boys just gotta throw hands, and then your boys again afterwards. This is how it is. That's just how guys are. But all right, most underrated anime of all time.
Oh man, this is tough. I don't know. This is you know it is probably I think Voltron. I'm gonna go with Voltron, old school Voltron.
Okay. Most overrated.
Oh man, that's tough. I think Yu-Gi-Oh. I really do.
Really? And you know what? No, fuck you. You're wrong. I love Yu-Gi-Oh. All right, the first two.
No, fine.
Up until when
I'll
they go
revise.
I'll give you a caveat. Up until they go into Kaiba's dad's stupid like virtual computer reality, it's flawless. It's amazing. After that, dog shit. Absolute garbage.
I mean, there's a few that are overrated by far. I definitely think that that's part of it. I think that to some degree, Pokemon after a while becomes overrated.
Yeah. In all defense, anyone who is a massive fan of anime, if I ask them the most overrated, 9 times out of 10, they'll say Yu-Gi-Oh. They'll say Yu-Gi-Oh. So I'll let that one slide. All right, final question for anime: dub or sub?
Oh man, I'm a subtitle guy because it's just faster, and that doesn't mean I don't appreciate dubs. But also dubs have gotten a lot better in the last 5 years.
Yeah,
it used to be bad. You go back to early 2000s, it was bad. And it also was bad how it was released, and it was a messed up art. And also, I use Crunchyroll, and with new shows, they get them an hour later, and it's subtitled. And that's the thing too, is that if I want speed, certain things, and now the US is about 3 weeks late, which is a lot better than a year late. But it's the idea that it's I just want to watch it immediately, and I just want to watch the show, and I want to enjoy it. And so that's why I'm a subtitle guy. I just also am accustomed to it.
I put subtitles on American shit like all the time. I put subtitles on everything.
It makes it so much easier.
It does. I've been doing that since I was a kid, like with my DVDs. Ever since I was a kid, I watched everything with subtitles, and it's the habit I picked up, and I don't lose. Like unless I'm watching something live or something that was previously live, subtitles are on there. Like I prefer dub is because it's easier. But if subs avail, if the subs are the only thing that's available, it's on a break for me. Like I'm watching the original Dragon Ball, it's only available in sub, so I'll watch it in sub.
Well, also though, if you have the choice and something like Dragon Ball Z versus sub or dub, I'm gonna pick dubbed. I'm gonna probably be starting Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. There's an option for dub or sub. I'm probably gonna pick the dub version just because it's an option. But most things that I watch, there's no option, and it's also just if I have to pick, I'm gonna watch the dubbed. But also like my eyes just now gradually just pick up, and like I'm like it's like I'm doing it subconsciously. It's so weird. It's a weird habit because I've been watching anime for almost 9 years with subtitles, and I thought I was never going to do it. It's weird when how you develop a habit. It's so interesting.
All right, let's move over to wrestling, and then we'll wrap up with comic books, and we'll go home. So, favorite wrestler of all time and favorite wrestler currently.
Oh man,
I know. I hit the hard question. So on my podcast is the Kings of the Rings podcast, my wrestling podcast. We have this thing called the First Guest Game. So I pretty much just took most of those questions except the last one because you have to listen to the show to get it. But I asked the first question I always ask. Well, the first question I ask is what got you into wrestling. So I guess I should ask that one. What got you into wrestling? I can let you think about the first favorite wrestler of all time.
Oh, everybody was watching in high school, and then I said, "Fine, I'll join the club." That's how I started. Because I didn't grow up watching wrestling. I started when I was in 9th grade.
Yeah, I started in 7th grade. That was in 2008-ish, 2008, and in 2007.
I came in during the John Cena Edge feud.
Oh, 06.
06,
okay.
yeah.
05,
right around about 6 weeks before TLC. So a really, really enjoyable feud and amazing. And I thoroughly enjoyed that feud. So yeah, that's how I got in. And then it just never left. And then and then now I'm more into the indie stuff.
Oh my God, man. I wish Evolve was still a thing, because Evolve would run shows at La Boom in Queens. It's like a nightclub, and they put on the greatest shows I've ever been to, because they would bring in NXT guys. So we saw like Velveteen Dream, rest in peace, like Johnny Gargano, the Street Profits, Matt Riddle. No, but these are people who were in NXT at the time, would come into the show and work with the Evolve guys. Like Austin Theory was the champion there at the time.
AG was there. Josh Briggs was there.
Yeah, because you know Evolve. Matt Riddle was there too. I saw Matt Riddle and Ricochet, Zack Sabre Jr. and Johnny Gargano and Joey Styles on the same show.
Evolve is crazy, and is Evolve in WWE's network? Is some of their content in there?
Evolve the Evolve content, like Evolve 68 or whatever, is all on the network. But Evolve as a company closed its doors while the talent is merged with NXT. And Eddie Kingston in Evolve was incredible. And I remember seeing him. It's like, this guy, I'm so happy he's in AEW. Like Orange Cassidy, I saw him in Evolve. Like, so many people have gone through Evolve. It's incredible.
Yeah, no. Eddie Kingston in ICW is phenomenal. No holds bar, and he got signed. And obviously, he's not around in that company anymore because you're signed to AEW. And good on Eddie, because Eddie's been doing everything. And he's one of those guys that really deserves it, and he deserves to finish off his career nicely in AEW. Nice
paycheck. He's getting paid too. He's a New York legend. He's a New York independent scene legend. All right, so favorite wrestler of all time and currently?
Oh man, so it's sort of the same person. It's like it's not good. Like, I love The Miz.
That's the right answer. All right, you should love The Miz. You should love The Miz. What do you mean? That's a great answer.
No. I feel bad that, like, my favorite wrestler of all time. I mean, John Cena obviously is sort of like one of the top, but he's like tied with The Miz. Like, my favorite wrestler right now is The Miz, and I think, like, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time is The Miz, because that guy's great. It's Becky Lynch, Alexa Bliss, John Cena, and The Miz.
Ooh, okay.
Like, I don't know. I mean, if I had to pick, it's like The Miz of all time and Alexa Bliss if I had to pick two. So I just think Alexa Bliss is priceless.
She is great. She's always been great. I remember, like, when she got called up to the main roster, and I was just like, really? And then she just burst onto the scene really quickly. And she became my favorite very fast.
She is the female Miz. Reason why I say this is that red carpet event, Alexa Bliss. Send Alexa Bliss to the gala. Alexa Bliss at the CMAs. Alexa Bliss at the VMAs. Alexa Bliss here. Alexa Bliss there. Alexa Bliss, we got this weird awards ceremony. You're on a plane. Monday Night Run. No, you're at this event. Do you want a new dress, Alexa Bliss? To the event you go.
Yep.
Hair and makeup, we got you at the event. That's how they do it with her. She's been all over. I think in 2017 and 2018, she spent for the entire year 45 days at home for the entire year.
Oh yeah, I 100% believe it. Definitely,
1,000%. Every like, she was doing all this press for WWE. She was doing, like, she's doing 2 or 3 press events, and she was on the road, and she almost every month only had 2 or 3 days at home, which is crazy. So she would go home. She would basically have enough time to change out her clothes, and then she'd be back out on the road. And it wasn't that she was wrestling. She was doing even less wrestling those years, and she was just doing all this press because she's perfect at it. It's insane. And then Miz is the same way. Look at Miz is on Dancing with the Stars. He is perfect for that.
Yeah, he is his character. I mean, he plays a great dick on TV. He plays a great heel, but from everyone I've ever heard, he's such a nice guy. He's such a good, genuine, nice person. And he's a phenomenal ambassador for the WWE. He's a team player. He's a company guy. And he makes that company look like $1 million because he does
Have you ever seen how he was responding when they were in Iraq to a guy, soldier, and he said, "If you tell me who's your favorite wrestler," and then he said, "Oh, this guy over here, this is Curtis Axel," and he said, "Okay, who's your second favorite wrestler?" And then he kept going, and he said, "If you don't say my name, I'm gonna rip this thing up." And then the guy said to somebody else, and he just walked away for like 5 minutes. One of the funniest things, but that's what the Miz can do, where he does it so well. And even with I forget the other guy who was backstage, and he was going through, and then the guy said, there was this kid, he said, "You're my least favorite wrestler," and the Miz just plays it off perfectly. And that guy is just phenomenal. Like, I would kill to interview the Miz. It would be such an amazing interview. And like his reality show that he did for 2 or 3 seasons,
Miz and Mrs. Yeah.
Oh, phenomenal. It was better than Total Divas. I mean, we had to not kid ourselves here. That show was amazing. And that promo on John Cena is one of the greatest promos on John Cena and Nikki Bella on WrestleMania.
Oh my God.
Because everything.
That build. John Cena house rule number 44. Like, it's the best. He's the best. Every word that the Miz said about that, saying, "You guys are more concerned about your YouTube channel. You're more concerned about Hollywood. I'm out here busting." And oh my God, unbelievable. And the uncuts thing with Daniel Bryan, talking smack. Yeah.
I mean, I think from my understanding, I don't think that was scripted.
It was a shoot. It was a worked shoot. So like they've talked about this a lot. Like, he was really hot. He was really angry, and he did just explode. But him and Brian were gonna kind of be at worst because they've been feuding forever. That's part of their shtick. But it was a work that turned into a shoot, and it was just like, oh, damn. I remember watching. I was like, God damn.
And I mean, because I think the Miz spoke about that. He said, "I didn't know if I was going to lose my job after that."
Yeah.
And
no,
I was like,
push. You got to push.
I mean, I don't know how much the Miz makes, but he has to be making at least $1 million.
A lot. He makes a lot. Like, base salary probably makes a lot. Base salary probably that's around $1 million. I don't know. But with all of his endorsements and the extra stuff he does, he has a good chunk of change. Don't get me wrong.
I mean, he's phenomenal. The stuff, him working with Johnny Impact and now Johnny Nitro back
Mundo,
again. I mean,
baby.
And you know what is? It's a good deal in which that, Johnny Nitro or John Morrison at this point now, his name was missing me. I mean, he's making a lot of money too, because he's given up being a championship guy, and he can hang. When John Morrison can hang, and he's making a lot of money too. And it's smart that WWE brought him back, because he can do everything in that company too.
Yeah. Him and Miz work so well together.
I love WWE. I own their stock, and it served me very well. And
I thought about buying their stock like a year or two ago. I should have.
I got made fun of it, in which that I put out a post on Facebook. I said, "If you don't know what WWE is, then you're a moron, or you're an idiot." I said something to that effect. And a lot of people took that to be offensive, and they didn't understand what I was saying, where WWE is Disneyland. And that's what it's becoming. And it's going to be that in the next 3 to 4 years. And I think that they are going to be a $6 to $9 billion company in the next 10.
Well, let me ask you, is Vince McMahon, because if I don't know how much you follow the dirt sheets or internet marks and smarks, but they love to say Vince is out of touch. Is Vince out of touch? Has he lost it?
No, I think everybody else has.
Yeah. Because and it's exactly what you said. You said it perfectly. It's Disneyland. Like, Vince McMahon, the one thing he's done his whole entire career is evolve and adapt. He took out the territories, changed the business, became a one company thing, changed the business. WCW came in, changed the business. He went right in, a competition, changed the business. And from there, he has kept adapting. We're going to do this new, Ruthless Aggression era, the John Cena era, the PG era, changing from WWF to WWE. He did that for money. People thought he was stupid. He thought he was crazy.
No. Back then. I don't know if he did it for money to some degree.
Well, when WWF sued, the World Wildlife Foundation sued for the name, he was like, fine. I want to change the name anyway to entertainment, because he's like, we're not wrestling, we're entertainment.
That is true. Right? That is true. But they negotiated that they don't have to blur it out.
Right, exactly.
With the old content, which made 100% sense. And the World Wildlife Foundation, I think they were going to lose that battle.
Yeah, probably.
Which wasn't the move. And if anything, what they should have done is that they should have figured out a way how to spin it for themselves, and that would have been really smart. They could have raised $100 million easy off of that entire name spin-off.
Like, is Vince out of touch with wrestling and what's over? I put that in quotes for all the people listening on audio. Yeah, probably. In fact, most definitely. But when it comes to making money and running a business, he is right there.
I'm going to ask you a good question. What is AEW? Because you know what WWE is.
AEW is wrestling.
See, AEW is a wrestling company.
Wrestling.
Because this is how I view WWE. WWE has the one thing AEW doesn't have. WWE has three things AEW doesn't have, I should say. The three things is having a really big library.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of a huge merchandising. Mm-hmm. WWE is one of the most licensed and merchandised companies in the world. And also, WWE, while the Khans are richer than the McMahons, I don't think the Khans have as much money and disposable income to put into AEW as Vince and WWE does, where WWE has a big bank account.
Vince McMahon has made three, count them, 1, 2, 3, $1 billion deals in the past 5 years. 3. Fox, Peacock, and Saudi Arabia. 3. Like, what? You gonna call him out of touch? No, he doesn't give a fuck about your stupid wrestling. Like, AEW is a better product. I'll say that. AEW is phenomenal. It's very entertaining. I love it. But it's because it's wrestling. But
also AEW is in its infancy.
Yeah.
What happens in corporations is that when Apple first came out, and the reason why I bring this up, they had a lot of innovation and they had a lot of growth because they didn't have a corporate structure. WWE is a corporate monstrosity. It is corporation to the T. AEW is not corporation to the T. There's red tape, but there's not as much of it. So what winds up happening, and in 3 or 4 or 5 years from now, AEW's, if they survive that long, and that's a really good question because, markets are changing, entertainment is changing, and it gets complicated, is that in 5 years from now, AEW is going to be in a very similar position where they are going to have corporate structures in place. Look, they have another show now on Friday night, and guess what? When you start building out your developmental territory, when you start building out certain things, great, you have corporate structures in place. The creativity gets challenged and gets messed up when you have corporate structures. That doesn't mean the creativity on your deals gets messed up and signing big deals. That's not what creativity is. But that's why WWE has some weird stories. AEW has phenomenal stories because they're in their corporate innovation mode and their honeymoon mode. Mm-hmm. Come 5 years from now, they're going to be in a similar place where WWE is.
Yeah, when they run out of dream matches. And let's not forget, tomorrow is the first day of Q4 in 2021. AEW's been around for almost 2.5 years, 2 years and changed. And
almost 3.
Almost 3. They have not turned a profit. Which isn't unheard of, right? New companies typically take 3 to 5 years to turn a profit. So it's not unheard of. But keep that in perspective. Like, they're just blowing money to make a great product. They will turn a profit eventually. But WWE, all they do is make money. So if Vince McMahon's not out of touch, he's just a step ahead. Because he sees the writing on the wall. He's just like, I'm just going to make as much money as I can. Because he's really, really good at it. He's always been really, really good at it. Yeah, the wrestling suffers. But like you said, it's not a wrestling show. It's Disneyland.
Okay, who sold the most merch at WrestleMania?
Oh, this year?
Yeah, this year. Who sold the most merch?
Oh, that's a great question. Probably Roman.
Nope.
Was it the Fiend?
Bad Bunny.
Oh, fuck, you're right. It was. And honestly, Bad Bunny did a incredible. I forgot he was on the card, not gonna lie, but he did an amazing job. I'm ashamed of myself for not. Like, honestly, I didn't know who Bad Bunny was. No idea who he was.
No, either. It's great.
I had no idea who he was
either.
Honestly, I listened to a lot of Bad Bunny because I love that. I love Latin music. I love that Latin pop music and Spanish songs and salsa music. Like, so I became a big fan of Bad Bunny.
I thought it was the stupidest idea when I saw it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh man, he could do some great shit in the ring. Holy shit!
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I was like, I was just like, I wasn't a huge fan because I was like, okay, who is this small little guy with silly bunny ears for hair? But then I was just like, okay, Will, it's a business. See how much money they brought in. Kids adore this guy internationally. This guy is a megastar, like the highest earning artist today. So
it was better than SummerSlam because Cardi B was supposed to be at SummerSlam where they were advertising, and then she didn't show the fuck up. And I'm like, what the hell?
She got pregnant. That's why.
But I mean, WWE must have been furious. And also, I didn't think Cardi B was the right move.
I agree. I'd fuck Cardi B.
I think there's better people that could have been put into that, and I think it would have been way smarter. I think they should have brought The Rock back.
Well, he'll be back next year because he'll be back at Survivor Series. It's 25 years of The Rock.
But my point is that, I think there could have been better positions on that.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I digress. My point is that, Bad Bunny brought in a lot of people. Yeah. I mean, my sister and her husband never watched WrestleMania, and Bad Bunny was on that card, and they watched. So they're not wrestling fans. They're like, oh man, we love The Miz. We love John Morrison, Bad Bunny, and Damian Priest. It was great. But you know who bought a lot of that merch? Not wrestling fans.
Yeah.
Bad Bunny made a fucking killing. He probably made more money from the merch than what WWE paid him. In fact, he might have done it for free because he might have pulled the Weekend move on it, saying the publicity here is worth way more than anything else.
Yeah, after his match on WrestleMania, they had, oh yeah, by the way, here's his tour. Here's his tour dates and locations, tickets available.
I mean, the Weekend at the Super Bowl paid another $7 million. Everybody knows who the Weekend is in America now.
Yeah.
Everybody knows. I didn't know who the Weekend was. I didn't really care who the Weekend was, but I'm like, I'm going to go check out what his music is.
I wish I didn't know who the Weekend was. Not a huge fan.
But my
point is exposure. Yeah, of course. Yeah, WWE. That's why Vince McMahon's not out of touch. He's 3 steps ahead. So I'm very glad we see eye to eye on that. So I'm very glad you're not a wrestling mark, or you might be a mark, but you're not the bad kind of mark.
No, I didn't watch Extreme Rules, but I had a good reason. I was behind in writing interviews, and I just couldn't do it.
Don't watch it. It's terrible.
No, I'm not going to go watch it now. I mean, I don't know what the next one is, Night of Champions or Survivor Series.
Next one is Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia, October 21st.
Well, maybe I'll watch it if I'm not working.
It's a Thursday. I believe it's the 21st. It's a Thursday. I check my calendar.
But my point is that, sometimes you miss wrestling.
Yeah,
but that does. Extreme Rules, from my understanding, was a rough pay-per-view. But I don't really care because, again, that company is making me money and they pay my dividend every single quarter. So I don't really care.
Smart investment. I'm very bullish on WWE as a company. I want
to buy more.
Let's move to comics. DC or Marvel? What do you prefer?
Oh, man, I'm a DC guy. I really am.
Okay. Favorite comic of all time?
I'm a Teen Titans guy.
Teen Titans? Really?
Jeff Johns' run on them, which was 2003 to 2009, I want to say.
Any particular issue? Any number? Your favorite actual issue?
Oh, I read it in graphic novel format, so I liked the first 5 issues. Also, Michael Turner did the covers for him, and Michael Turner, he unfortunately passed away, and he's just a phenomenal artist. And brilliant, absolutely just amazing covers. And I spent good money on some of his covers for Teen Titans because they're personal and they're phenomenal. And I went out and got the variants of them. I mean, it was maybe like $15 for a regular issue that he did, which is pricey.
All right. Favorite superhero?
Green Lantern.
Okay, interesting. Stupidest villain.
Stupidest villain.
Yeah, the dumbest villain out there. Like, say Polka Dot Man, I dare you. It's fine.
Oh man, it's weird. Like, Bizarro is not a smart villain, but I like Bizarro. This is hard. You know what it is? This is. I don't know. This is like Oh, this is tough. I'm actually out of ideas on this one.
I'm surprised I wrote this question down. I was like, okay, I don't want to ask like favorite villain. That's just too cliche because obviously it's a Joker. But I was okay, the dumbest villain. Who's the dumbest villain out there?
I do have a favorite villain, and it's not the Joker. I'm a Deathstroke guy. So Slade Wilson Deathstroke is great. I thoroughly enjoy him. I can't think of a dumb villain. Like, I can think of villains that annoy the shit out of me, but yeah, it's I don't know who's a dumb villain because I read a lot of Batman comics. I read a lot of Teen Titans comics.
Batman has great villains. Batman does.
That's the problem. Yeah. Superman to some degree has great villains, but those villains don't speak. I mean, Doomsday and Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor is a smart motherfucker. It's like you put Vince McMahon and Lex Luthor in a conversation. And they want to create a wrestling company. You're good for life. You're good. Like Brainiac. You can't say anything bad about Brainiac. He's a brainiac. I'm just saying, like, I read all the good stuff. I mean, I guess Reverse Flash is just stupid to me.
Okay. That's, the name says it all. The name says it all. I mean,
you really couldn't think of anything better. I mean, Captain Boomerang is a hell of a lot better. And then it's like, which is the only other Flash villain I know. But Reverse Flash, like, I don't get Reverse Flash. I would say Dr. Light too, but Dr. Light is so smart. Scary how smart Dr. Light is. I know, like I'm mentioning all these superheroes that nobody knows about, or villains that nobody knows about. It's terrible.
Hey man, that's why you're a nerd. It's all good. Best written character.
Oh, best written character. Definitely Batman. I think Batman has Batman, and then new characters in the last like 3 years. I think Jessica Cruz has been written really well. She is the new female Green Lantern.
Okay.
So I think she's been written extremely well.
You prefer the comics or the movies?
With DC, comics or the animation movies?
Oh, I'm gonna say live action.
Yeah, the comics. By far. I mean, Batman vs Superman and Justice League just.
Well, I was including Marvel in there as well.
Marvel is too happy. It's too optimistic for me.
Okay.
I mean, but then again, the Christopher Nolan trilogy, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Some of the best stuff. I was on a podcast, another show, and I made the argument that without that, I mean, that trilogy has set up so many live actions and has transformed comics and has changed Hollywood's perspective of what a comic book movie can be.
Yeah. An Oscar winner at that. It can be an Oscar winner. It can be included in the polite society or the elite society of Hollywood.
Also, I think it made it cool to say, hey, I like Batman.
That too.
You like Batman? I like Batman. This is awesome, man. Let's go grab a beer.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like X-Men, the first X-Men came out in 2000. Spider-Man 1 with Tobey Maguire came out in 2002. And then they were off, and Blade came out in the 90s, which was really the first comic book movie. That's off to the races. But yeah, I would say like Dark Knight really was just like the turn for superhero movies. Because then I think the same year, like the next year, Iron Man 1 came out. And there was this game over. Then there you go.
Yeah, and then I mean, the X-Men movies though. I think X2.
X2 is the greatest superhero movie of all time. I'll still say that.
So X2 had Stryker in it, right?
Yep, Stryker, and it was the at the dam.
Because that was the most interesting, and I think if that's revisited, and what people don't understand is that was dealing with a lot of civil rights, and the X-Men are some of the most interesting characters because it is a civil rights comic.
Exactly.
And I mean the Civil War Mutant Island with the X-Men, where they basically say, fuck this, we're gonna go build an island with Deadpool and we don't have to deal with any of you ever again because you guys, and we don't want to be part of this. And you guys haven't liked us at all, and you're not liking us, and you're coming after us, and civil rights written all over it. Brilliant X-Men stuff. I don't know how they came up with it, but civil rights is a big thing. And somebody with a disability, physical disability, I mean, I see it miles away.
All right, give me a favorite writer and illustrator.
Favorite writer? Chuck Dixon. And Illustrator. Do cover artists count?
Sure. Yeah.
Right now, I am really big on Sun Kumanaki and Keith Garvey.
Okay. All right. Last question. Next superhero you want to see on the big screen or TV screen, one or the other.
I want to see Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn.
Yes. Well, we have Harley Quinn. We have the Birds of Prey.
I want to see a Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy movie.
Yeah. Oh, Poison Ivy's. That's good. That's good. Poison Ivy would be great. Okay, who do you want to play Poison Ivy? Who would be a good Poison Ivy? Who's a good ginger actress?
I think of somebody, but they're not a actress the way they're supposed to be.
Who would be a good Poison Ivy? You know, I'm going to shelf that one.
I have somebody in my mind. If I was directing it, I know exactly who I would cast.
Who you got?
Lauren Phillips.
Who is Lauren Phillips?
She's sort of a porn star model for FHM.
I want to Google this chick. Lauren Phillips. Let's go to images.
Make sure it's an appropriate image.
No, it is. You know what? You were correct. Yeah, that is a great choice. I don't know if she can act, but she looks the part. That's for damn sure.
I think she can do it, and she's got the a lot of the right things in the right places, and I think if I have my say in DC, because I don't own enough AT&T stock yet, but if I was running that entire thing, that Discovery deal would be canceled.
All right. I think we can end on there. Andrew, I want to thank you so much. Before we go, do you have any questions for me? Anything you want to ask me, know about me? Anything else you want to say before we wrap up and do our plugs?
What's the meaning of life?
Oh, for fuck's sake. The meaning of life is to say whatever you want on a microphone for the internet all to hear. There. How's that? Did I do good?
It works for me. It works for me.
Andrew, I'm not going to lie. I didn't think we were going to go an hour and 45 American minutes, but lo and behold, we did. I had a great time talking to you. I learned so much about investing, comic books, and I really, really did enjoy it for the last 45 minutes. It's shooting a shit on pop culture. I hope you had as good of a time as I did.
Oh, yeah, I loved it. I got no problem. Pretty much the night was all yours, pretty much.
Where can they find you on social media? Anything you want to plug, your podcast, what you got going on, man? The floor is yours.
Yeah, so I'm pretty accessible. Obviously, popanimecomics.com. I got an article that'll be up, and I'm going to have a few more articles up there talking about military comics and other comics, maybe some anime. Check me out there for some writing. Usually my articles are about 500 to 800 words, so it's a quick read. Pop Anime Comics Lounge can be accessed on my website. My Twitter is @PopAnimeComics. My Facebook page is Pop Anime Comics. And yeah, November 1st, I'm launching a Kickstarter, and I'm super excited for it. And got a lot of cool stuff coming up. Got some fun stuff coming with that. And I don't know if I'm going to be successful at it or not, but we're funding season 3 of the show, and I go 4 times a night, usually Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 7 and 9 p.m. on Facebook Live, and hopefully Pop Anime Comics Lounge is going to be coming back in January. I got about 40 episodes I got to edit, and a lot of fun stuff, and I do a lot of cool stuff, and typically anything that's Pop Anime Comics is mine unless I owe you money, and if that's the case, I am going to quietly walk away as if I broke something in a store, and hopefully you will walk away with me so we both don't get in trouble.
All right. Well, fingers crossed, man. I wish you the best of luck for your new podcast. I'm going to be a lookout for it. I'm going to check it out. And if you guys want to check all of my shenanigans out, my name is Will Tarashuk. That's T as in Thomas, ARASHUK. All of my things, including this podcast, can be found over at ambiguouspodcastsolutions.com, where all of my podcasts can be found. If you like our wrestling conversation and want to hear more of my wrestling digest, go to Kings of the Rings podcast, or anywhere podcasts can be found, including APS.com. This has been Talking with Tarashuk. The other podcast is the Ambiguous Podcast Solution, where I sit down, or Jared Laverne sits down, so other people sit down with other podcasts to find out about their podcast, what they do, why they do it, and how they do it. If you want to be a guest, if you have a podcast, want to be a guest on that podcast, feel free to reach out to me personally at will@APS Podcast. That's APSPODCAST.com to find more. Or if you're interested in being a guest on Talking with Tarashuk, reach out to that same email telling me who you are, what you do, and why you want to be a guest. I'd be happy to talk to you. Who knows? We might go 3 hours, count them, 1, 2, 3 of them. But until then, I am Will Tarashuk. That is Andrew Davis. I just kicked my camera, so that means it's time to go. We'll be back next time. But until then, you all stay classy. I got to think of an outro. It's okay.